up, YouTube? Good morning. Welcome into Attacking Third. Sorry guys, did it lag on my end, or did you all get the delayed recording?
We're finally here.
We all made the same sound, when you smile and it's like,
ooh.
And then we all just stared.
Literally the worst sound ever.
We're doing it.
Mics amplify that.
Oh boy.
We got a crew. We got a crew today. Christine Cupo, Sandra Herrera, Darian Jenkins. I'm Lisa Carlin. If you're with us in the chat, thank you, guys. It is a pleasure to chat with you. We have a hefty show today. We see you. Thanks for joining the conversation. Like this video, subscribe, join the chat, because Christine, you're in there. You're always in there, right?
Yo, I am. And also an early shout to Melanie Lopez. Come on, you Gunners! North London is still red, baby. I love these morning greetings. This is better than my cold brew.
It's the best. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. Big show coming up. Stick with us. We'll start right after this. Welcome into Attacking Third. It's Thursday. We've got updates, news, front office moves. We're deep and dive into Chicago.
We're deeping.
Stars. Hey, at least I didn't say Red Stars. We got a little interview conversation. We're chatting the Barclays Women's Super League as well, because it's back. And of course, to do all of this, we had to have the full crew: Christine Cupo, Sandra Herrera, Darian Jenkins, and I'm Lisa Carlin. D, you're already making fun of me like 1 second into the show.
I had to. I'm sorry. I missed you guys live. I don't see Lisa enough in person anymore to tease her, so I have to get it out somehow. So there has to be just a little bit of a jab at the beginning.
I'm all here. I'm here for it. Don't worry. I can take it. I've known you long enough, Darian. I know when it's coming and how to handle it. Christine, what's up? How are you?
I am freaking fantastic. Today is a wonderful day. It's nice to see you guys, even if I can't high five you IRL. The chat's already popping off. Love them. It's a good day.
It's good. Sandra, we've been hanging out a lot this week. Thank goodness.
Oh, goodness.
Thank goodness I have you. Lots of pre-tapes, but it's good. You'll hear them all today. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Ready to share what we've been working on, obviously, and just happy to be here. So it's getting towards the end of the week, and it's always great to cap it up with you guys.
It sure is. And there's a lot to talk about. Before we get into all the women's football of it all, our hearts continue to be with those affected by the LA wildfires. And in light of this horrific tragedy, you can join us in an effort to donate at redcross.org/CBS. The donations will be going directly to helping those affected by providing shelter, meals, and relief items. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS, visit redcross.org/CBS, or you can text the word Red Cross to 90999 to make a $10 donation. Everything helps. And we will continue to talk about this until there is relief and everything comes to light. Plenty to talk about and to dive into. Let's talk with some of the biggest news happening in front offices on the West Coast. Angel City FC have announced that Mark Parsons is the club's new sporting director ahead of the 2025 NWSL season. Mark Parsons will oversee all soccer ops, including technical staff, scouting, analytics, sports medical, performance, nutrition, player care, all of it. And he's going to report directly to Angel City co-founder and president Julie Berman. A familiar name for those who've been around NWSL. Parsons is back in the NWSL. He spent a majority of his managerial career in the league, bookending his coaching career in Washington with the Spirit. He spent 6 years at Portland. In the middle of his tenure, he spent some time overseas with the Netherlands women's national teams, but now he's back. But Sandra, this is a different role for Mark Parsons now as a sporting director, not a head coach. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think there was a part of me there. I was just like, would I have had more to say if if he was announced as the head coach, but I think it's a good and important step for Angel City. I think coming off of the season that they did, where they had to deal with being docked 3 points, they were dealt with some consequences that obviously affected them down the stretch of this season. They no longer had a GM, someone to help with operations. Hughley's is with Houston now. So who's going to be that person to kind of help put the foundation really moving forward for Angel City? And not only did they need someone to fill that role, but they still also need a head coach. So they went out and they got this very, very experienced former head coach in the league. I mean, you ran down all of his successes in NWSL specifically. So I think there's like this other caveat to this now. It's like, okay, he's in this position, he's in this role. So who is going to be the head coach that this once very successful head coach hires to get this team to really kind of execute the vision that Angel City wants to produce moving forward?
I really like this hire. I think that when you have somebody with the experience that he has, the knowledge of coaching, also the level that he's going, the standard that he's used to having from Portland, from the Netherlands, where you have a proper nutritionist, where you have a proper staff, you have multiple staff members and PTs to take care of the players. I think having a former coach like Mark Parsons in a position like this, where he gets to dictate and pick and choose and allot money to where it needs to go for the players for it to be better in the long run, is huge. I think this is a great move for Angel City. They've needed a reset. I see funky old Medina in the chat that's saying it's a rebuild year. Yes, but I think that they're making such a good move where it's going to make that happen a lot quicker. I think that with that move being made, they're going to be much more particular about the type of coach they're going to bring in, the type of style of play for the players that they have, the players that they're trying to get. I think that this is really smart by Angel City, and shout out to Mark Parsons back in the NWSL.
Christine, with Angel City having Mark Parsons in the front office now, they need a head coach stat. We are 57 days away from opening weekend in the NWSL.
Preseason's here. No pressure. Preseason ahead. Like, let's go. It's a big ask. I think that he's got a pretty deep network that he can dig into, which is great. But I think they need to be doing that expeditiously. I'm trying to think right now off the top of my head which coaches are even available that would be viable and willing and capable of taking a big team like an Angel City. Obviously, that's a massive market, and just like nestling themselves in there and being really, really impactful right away. I know that we tossed around her name many, many times before, but like, I don't know, has anybody checked on Twyla?
Mm-hmm. Great shout for Twyla Kilgore. But Mark Parsons, I have a lot of faith in him. Honestly, the bar is very high for Parsons to succeed at Angel City, to bring in a coach that is able to turn this team around in 1 year. They have 1 year in my mind to get back to playoffs and to be a top team in the NWSL. And if anyone can do it, I truly believe that Mark Parsons can, because of his deep knowledge, not only of the league, but of the women's soccer landscape. So to bring in maybe some staff players that aren't on everyone's radars. I'm sure they're on Sandra's, because Sandra knows everything.
Listen, if it can happen anywhere, Lisa, it can happen in NWSL. I don't think there's no better example of what the concept of a rebuild is, how long it is. For some of these teams, it takes exactly 1 season. So good hire all around, I think.
Great hire. Other free agency NWSL updates, rumors, and reports. The biggest one, oh my goodness, has this player's name been exhausted on social media, Reddit threads, everywhere. U.S. women's national team and San Diego Wave defender Naomi Girma. The interest is there from every single club, namely Lyon, Arsenal, but Chelsea. They are currently rumored to be in the lead to sign her. It's huge for any club that gets Girma, right? She is a world-class defender, but it leaves a giant hole, Sandra, in San Diego. How does Girma's imminent leaving hurt the Wave?
I mean, if you were blind to all the signs before, I don't think you can ignore them any longer. San Diego's in a rebuild themselves. We're talking about Angel City and this hiring with Mark Parsons. I think taking a look at some of the signings that they've gotten so far kind of symbolizes that as well. They're out there getting young talent that they obviously want to build with for the future. And with the constant rumor mill around Girma and now some concrete reporting, tying numbers and teams to things. I think the writing is on the wall. If you're a fan of Wave FC, get ready to say your farewells, honestly. And I think for San Diego, in conversations that I've had surrounding the club and their future moving forward, I think it's pretty evident with what they're kind of building at this moment. To my understanding, they're still set to sign a young, talented center back of their own, and that's a little bit telling. So there's a little bit of a sneak peek for you there. And so I think once that signing comes out, I think folks will also kind of be like, okay, we're definitely moving on here. So I think it's one of these things that have just sort of been, the rumor mill was nonstop, but now once you get kind of the numbers and the concrete reporting, you have to say, okay, this is kind of done and dusted.
It's hard to replace Girma. It's hard to replace her, right? She's won championships and
she's irreplaceable.
Yeah. And Sandra's talking about signing a rookie out of college.
Look, San Diego's there. Yeah, it's a total reset. I know that we're talking about Angel City, that being a reset year, but I think that they're miles ahead of San Diego. I think it's going to take some time. I understand wanting to bring in young talent. These are players you can mold and fit and define your team in a way that's not based around certain players, because those players you could base around are all leaving. And I don't blame Girma if this is really true and she's considering going to Chelsea, which if I'm in her position, I'm winning Defender of the Year. I'm just coming off winning a gold medal. This is not a tournament year. This is the year where you can actually go and enjoy a season elsewhere in a different format, get different competition, different coaching, and add even more to your game with great, intelligent players around you. I mean, imagine her and Millie Bright in the back line. That's insane. Yep. So I like this for her. This is true. I understand it. I would also want to get out and explore. This is the year to do it. And to let San Diego figure some things out that's not necessarily at her expense, because I think a lot of it would be, because that's a lot of pressure when you're the face of the team, you're the market, you're basically the market for that team. And you have to lead and teach everybody how to redefine what this club is. That's a lot of pressure that when you just want to play, you want to just go play. It's been a tough year for San Diego in 2024. So I get it. I like it. I do hope maybe we see her over in Europe and get her to see her play in Champions League. I mean, that'd be incredible for her career and for whatever team gets to have her.
Yeah, huge. That would be a huge get for Girma. And there's so much growth in uncomfortability. And for Girma to go overseas to a new league, to a new team, she's going to grow. She's going to grow as a player, get experiences. And frankly, that's what she's needs. She spent her first 3 professional years, 3 in NWSL. I like this for her. Spread her wings, go try out something else. Canada, they're making waves, guys. The new Northern Super League, it starts this spring, and they're signing former NWSL players, veterans. Vancouver Rise FC, they've signed midfielders Nikki Stanton and Quinn. And then Ottawa Rapid have signed midfielder Desiree Scott. These are big moves.
These are huge moves. Also, former NWSL player Erin McLeod is going to Canada as well. I love that the Canadian Super League, New Northern Super League, is bringing players quickly out of retirement back to their teams. And I love it. Let's add more competition. Let's add more opportunity. I mean, these are also players that were getting in and out minutes with their teams. They were kind of on a bubble. I think Seattle bringing over Lynn Williams, you have to free up a lot of money and space in your team. To kind of get rid of players, mutually agree to separate on good terms. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think what this means for Seattle is great. They're redefining what this team is. I mean, Lynn Williams is a player you build your team around. You want to get her running towards the goal to score, because that was their biggest struggle last year. And I think they got the perfect player to do it, but you need players around her that can support that. And I think you're leaving out with some possession players that were focused between Quinn and Nikki Stanton. That will go and fit and help define what the Northern Super League is going to be. So I love this for these particular players. I like that there's more competition in another league, and I'm excited for Seattle because we gave them a lot of shit last year for how they performed. And maybe they earned it. Maybe we were giving Laura Harvey a lot of shit at the final, and she was like, you know what? You guys just wait till you see what we got cooking. And I love it. I think this is really exciting. And I think Seattle's going to be a really high contending team next year. And I want to see more competition between the Northern Super League and the NWSL. I think there's going to be something cooking there.
See,
But it's
I have
really
a
exciting all
question,
around.
Darian, for you is, were you surprised to see what is perceived for me at least as like a very quick buy-in for the Canadian League versus the USL Super League for former NWSL players? Or from
No.
your perception, like what do you think the benefits are more that has had them jumping so quickly?
Well, you have to think, you look at the Northern Super League, you have players that are invested in this, like Diana Matheson, Christine
Sting.
Sinclair, who know what a good standard is to go play football. They've also been in the NWSL when the depths, the places we want to forget of the NWSL, they've gone through it. They have
WPSL.
Yeah, they have really been through it. They know exactly what not to do and what a standard is of what the league should be like. So I would have all the faith in the world going to an organization, going to a league like the Northern Super League, where my best interests are going to be looked out for, because I know I have Canadian national team players who know how to get money, what it's supposed to look like. I think it's a really good move for these players. If you're on the bubble in the NWSL, I wouldn't want to play there. With the new CBA, that pulls into effect that, you know what, if you're a bubble player and you're not going to travel, you also cost the team, what, $60,000, $70,000. Why would you want to play there when you can go play in the Northern Super League, get playing time, maybe become the face of a franchise? It's a big opportunity. The competition, I think, is going to be a bit less than the NWSL. It's going to take time to build up. But what an opportunity to go play and just reset your career and go get paid to kick a ball around in another country. Like, go play abroad. That's exactly what you do.
Are Canadian. You mentioned Erin McLeod, Quinn, Desi Scott. These are Canadians. They want to go home.
That's go home. That's great. It's goals.
It's so cool. Okay, Christine, biggest free agent that we weren't sure if she was going to be on the market. She's officially on the market. Former North Carolina forward Kerolin has informed the Courage that she's going to pursue her free agency. This is huge news. She was highlighted and circled as the biggest free agent. So many of us thought she was just going to stay in North Carolina, but now that she's pursuing free agency, is she even going to stay in the NWSL?
Very good question. I mean, I would love to see that, but I think that if she's opting out as hard as she is on North Carolina, who I think have treated her really well, who she's excelled there, 2023 MVP, that she's probably pursuing opportunities abroad. And I say that because even with her injury, North Carolina were so careful and helped her recuperate so well. Where, we saw her on the field for Brazil before we saw her back on for North Carolina. I would love to know where she goes. I know there's obviously speculation. Even the chat is like, hey, Kerolin to WSL. Maybe, maybe I think she could thrive there. She's only 25. It's just a matter of her staying healthy. And when you're coming back from an ACL, and she seems to be coming back the right way, I'm excited to see where she goes. But damn, I mean, I'm gonna miss her in NWSL.
Big rumors that she's going to Manchester City. D.
Well,
I mean, I have no clue.
My thoughts. Go ahead.
Sorry, you cut out. I couldn't hear. My thoughts are that maybe Angel City would be the move. I mean, you have Mark Parsons. You got to go be in LA. That's much more marketable for you. It's a way to make more money. You're in warm weather. You would be one of the biggest stars on the team. You've already proven that you can score against every team in the NWSL. Why not keep your good luck? Go to an organization that just got a massive investment. They have deep pockets. It's freaking Disney that's throwing money at Angel City. So to me, that would be a good move to stay in the NWSL. Like, you've got confidence here. You know how to play against the teams. You're up to the tempo of the league. You're also coming back from a big injury where when you did come back from it, you were struggling in an NWSL. Why not stick with what you know, get that level back that we saw before she tore her ACL, and then make the big move?
Oof. We'll see. We'll keep you guys updated on where Kerolin moves and where she ends up. Other free agency or really moves and trades and transfers, I'm going to try to rip through some of these. San Diego Wave, they've picked up young 19-year-old Nigerian striker Chiamaka Okuchukwu, a one-year contract through 2025. Utah Royals, they've signed free agent defender Tatum Milazzo, plus forward Aisha Soloranzo from Liga MX's Club Tijuana. Washington Spirit, they've signed Brazilian forward Tamara Bolt, and Seattle Reign. Darian says they listen to us. Laura Harvey, yeah, it's totally was listening to us, not it didn't do too well last year. But Seattle Reign, they've bulked up. They've re-signed midfielder Maddie Mercado, to a 1-year deal, plus defender Lauren Barnes. She's sticking around for another year, her 13th year with the club. And then some college players, Rutgers defender Emily Mason and UNC forward Maddie Deline. Maddie to a 3-year contract. Both Mason and Deline are named to the 2025 U.S. Women's National Team Futures Camp. Sandra, Laura Harvey, Seattle, they want to win this year. They want to be back on top.
They absolutely do. And honestly, Seattle probably just wanted to make moves. I mean, this is the movement that we did not get to see from this club last offseason. They were going through, they kind of had this sit and wait approach. They had to navigate this ownership change, this sale of club. And it's amazing what happens once that goes through. And now you finally sort of have these resources and the ability to kind of navigate and move. So you have to give shout out to Laura Harvey, Leslie Gallimore, the general manager, for having the vision and being ready, just being ready. As soon as offseason hit, we have seen Seattle in these headlines, and a lot of good signings there. And we had to give the special shout to Lauren Barnes, 13 years. Incredible.
Pretty incredible. Some other college signings, just to keep everyone up to date. Bay FC, they've signed 3-time All-American midfielder Taylor Huff. She'll be at the Futures Camp as well. Portland have signed Princeton's forward Pietra Torden, also at the Futures Camp. And Orlando Pride signed an All-American defender out of Wake forward Zara Shavosky. That's a 1-year contract and Orlando's first college signing. We will dive deep into all the rookies to come in the NWSL, the college signings, as we get closer to the start of the 2025 season. Woo! Trades, transfers, updates. Guys, we did it. It only took us 20 minutes to chat about it all.
Good job,
we
Lisa.
made it. Plenty more to run through in this episode, though. Stick with us. We've got more coming up next. Welcome back. The countdown to the 2025 NWSL season, it is absolutely on. So we are recapping every single club from 2024 and what they need heading into this next season. This week, today, we are talking the Chicago Stars. Everyone start counting how many times we say Red Stars versus the Stars. It's a rebrand for the club. They're now just the Stars. In 2024, they finished 8th at the end of the season, 32 points. 10 wins, 2 draws, 14 losses, and a goal differential of -7 or -7. It was the first year under former Jamaican women's national team head coach Lauren Donaldson. They added a lot of power last year with defenders Sam Staub, Cuica, Julia Grosso, Ludmila. But then they had some injuries, most notably Sam Staub. She tore her Achilles in July against Gotham, and she was out for the rest of the year. Mallory Swanson, she's still around. She's entering year 2 of her 5-year contract. Goalkeeper Alyssa Nair, she's back for another 1 year with Chicago. They did manage to make the playoffs last year, Sandra, but they lost in the first round to ultimately the champions, Orlando Pride, 4-1. But what happened in 2024? If you could summarize it for us, Sandra. A big ask for you today. We're putting you to work.
Lisa, we literally only have so much time. What kind of a cost to me? What happened?
Tell us everything.
Too much and not enough at the same time probably is the best way. I think that maybe you can frame it for the Chicago Red Stars side. I mean, it was the first season where they really got to jump in with new ownership at the front, a new head coach, new club president, new general manager, all of this newness, and it included new signings and new players, some of them that you just sort of rattled off as well. And now 2025, there's still a layer of that. Like, this is a full offseason that their general manager Rick Cruz has been able to be with the club. He came in kind of mid to preseason there, wasn't really responsible or part of that process in bringing Lauren Donaldson into the club. He came after. That was a hire that was made afterwards. So this is really the first offseason I think that we're getting to see all of them kind of work together to manage a roster moving forward. And I think there's some question marks. I think when they got bounced from the playoffs, I think we could all agree that like they needed some help in the midfield. They didn't really have too many answers for the back line when Sam Staub went down. They found a little bit of an answer there in Kari Recaro. And so what does that mean for 2025? I think it still means that those are still same concerns that they had to close out their season going into this preseason. So Sam Staub has had some time to recover in the offseason, but that's a significant injury. How does she feel? What does she look like in 2025? What does that mean for a player in Recaro? Do they want to see her back in the midfield? Do they want to keep her lower on that back line? And some of the signings that they have made so far have been a little peculiar. I won't say that they're these home run type of acquisitions, but they're definitely signings and acquisitions that make you kind of say, okay, well, where is this actually going? So you're getting potential midfielders to kind of maybe fill these holes, but in what way? In some aspects, they are midfielders who show a lot of athleticism. Some of them are more possession based. Some of them are kind of like, rough and tumble. Like, how is that all going to work together? And I think there's also this layer that there were some pieces that they got last year that they want to continue to see evolve in maybe year 2 or year 3 with this club. I think Jamise Joseph is a great example of that. This is one of the rookies that they drafted alongside Leilani Nesbeth to kind of maybe say, these are the young pieces that we're going to retain and move forward with. And so Jamise is going to be in that futures camp. Congratulations to her. She really turned things on there in the second half of the season. But there's all these gaps, I think, that we always talk about in terms of, making that leap from the college game to the pro game. And I think you saw that a little bit in some of the players that were on this Chicago Stars team. So I think there's a lot of hope there, and there's a lot of trust in that some of these players will continue to develop and take those next steps. And maybe you would include somebody like a Grosso in that, because although this was an exciting mid-season signing for the franchise, this was a player that needed a little bit of time to get adapted to the style of NWSL and play in the league. And then you have Ludmila as well, that I think they're hopeful that she will continue to build on what she just started to put together with Chicago.
Some of the off-season acquisitions that Sandra is talking about include young youth Japanese international midfielder Manaka Hayashi and also Spanish midfielder Maitani Lopez, who came over from Gotham. But Christine, they also lost defender Tatum Milazzo to free agency. Is this enough for Donaldson and the Stars?
I feel like Lauren obviously is more defensive minded to begin with, so I don't worry as much about their defense. I think that midfield they need to fix, and then obviously firepower. They had some good rookies they picked up. I think that their issues too is that they got pieces kind of like Louisville, like way too late in the season where they couldn't really plug and play with them, like also Ludmila. Defenders, obviously, once you lose Sam Staub, like I feel like that's really where the wheels fell off. There isn't a one-to-one for Sam. They definitely need to figure out replacements going forward there, but I don't know what they're waiting. I mean, well, I don't know. Less focus on the rebrand, more focus on your personnel and how you want to play.
I think they forgot about the rebrand too.
Yeah. Guys, I'm lost because Lauren Donaldson last year, we all had so many coaches calls with him before games. And he would be very open and saying, yeah, I mean, we don't have the players that we need yet to be the team that we want to be. There are free agents. Why aren't you bringing a Kristen Hamilton, which could be partnered with E-Ball going to the team? That's more depth in your center back position. Abby Erceg's also a free agent. That is kind of a Chicago legend. I mean, she did a lot with Chicago. I think she's an accomplished defender. I think she could be great. Danny Colaprico, another one that would help define that like kind of funky midfield. We're not sure how all these partnerships are going to work. But I think that they need a little bit more depth and experience because, Sandra, to your point, yeah, they're signing these young players. And yes, last year was a rebuild year. And no, we're figuring it out week to week. Oh, we drop off a lot when Mal Swanson's not here. That same thing can happen this year. And I don't know if I don't personally feel confident enough with what we get from Lauren Donaldson, which he doesn't give a lot of information in interviews, which is fair. I get that. But are we confident in the signings he's made that this is actually going to be able to define the style of play that they want to play, that's possession heavy, that's breaking teams down, that's not just defending for 80% of the game?
That's what they want to play. That's the style they want to play.
I mean, they haven't shown anything otherwise.
Yeah,
have they shown anything else that they're leaning in any different direction?
They are so far from that style of play, though. They're
so far, but he has admittedly said that's what they want to play. They want to be a possession-heavy team.
They're far
and
from
I'm
it
looking
last
at
year,
this.
and I think they're so far from it this year. I don't think it's unfair to take a look at this offseason and say
I don't know
that they've undelivered, that they have not been making the moves or signing the prototypical player that they've alluded to that they need in some of these positions. And it's not just on the players here that the franchise should maybe look at and hope that take that next step. It's on the coaching staff as well. Lauren Donaldson has to show in year 2 that he is the guy to take this team beyond an 8th seed. That's not quite the compliment I think that you want in this league.
No,
do you want to be the 8th best team in the NWSL? What does that mean?
Right, but like, what happened to
limbo? It means you're in limbo.
What happened to Lauren and his be relentless? Relentless in what? Relentless how? Like, I need
when we talk about Chicago, it's very uninspiring. I'm going to be very honest. It's pretty harsh, but it is very uninspiring with the moves that they're making, the players they're bringing in. And frankly, if you look at the last couple of years, the players that they've lost, right, there was a lot of change that needed to happen at Chicago. But most recently last year, forwards Penelope Hawking, Ella Stevens, these are players that left Chicago and became more players in and of themselves. Ella Stevens flourished at Gotham, taking on bigger roles to score. She couldn't do that at Chicago with what they were building there. And there seems to be this blockage at the Stars about you have Mallory Swanson up top, right? So much of the attack relies on her ability to be on the ball, to create and to score chances. But the drop off when she is not on the pitch or unavailable or even mitigated from games at times is massive. Plus you have Alyssa Nair in goal in the back. So you're almost bookended with this superstar talent that you need someone else to provide for them. If you could, Darian, describe a player in the midfield, you don't actually have to name a player, but the type of tactics that Chicago would need in the midfield to continue their attack, to set Swanson up for success, to do things on both sides of the ball, what would that type of player look like?
That's a really tough question because I don't think Chicago can be a possession team just based on bringing in one player. That is why I think sign a Jasmine Spencer, sign a Kristen Hamilton, where then, okay, if we're going to play ugly, cold oatmeal football, then you at least have some goal scorers on the other end who can cause a lot of havoc in the front line. A player for me that can help dictate the tempo, a player like Andy Sullivan. I'm not saying Andy Sullivan is going to Chicago. I never think that is going to happen. But think about how her style of play, how she is able to calm the team down. She knows when to switch the point of attack. She picks the right times to go forward, to send a ball long, when to just let the team tire out and keep possession. They need a player like that in the midfield that can really lead the team and bring calm fundamentals of soccer to that squad, because I don't necessarily think that they're bringing that in because they do play chaotic. They do try to possess, but they don't have the quality fully yet in order to do that. That's why when I hear Lauren Donaldson talking about this, I'm thinking you have a lot of players where, hey, let's just admit, let's be San Diego year 1. Let's launch the ball forward. Let's make it awful to play against us. We're going to press. We're going to make it hell for you to try to build out. And you're just going to be turning and facing your own goal because we're making you defend the whole time because we're just flicking the ball and going long. Mm-hmm. That's how you can score goals. And that's how you can be a little bit more of a hellhole for teams to come play you at. But I don't think it's there yet, but the player who I'm thinking of, the similar qualities is like an Andy Sullivan or a Sam Coffey.
Yeah, that's a good shout. They have to lean into the ugly at times, or lean into
it.
Lean into it.
Lean in. It's to play against.
Just own it. Be like, this is how we're going to play. Swanson's going to be the golden boot because all we're going to do is dump it to her. It'll literally go from Mayer to Swanson.
They got to get her the ball.
Just get a tall girl to flick it. Get Maitane in that 10 position to just flick it on. Everybody go forward. Let's score some goals.
There were stretches of the season where that was the energy, and yet they could not get this player the ball. Yes. It was in the body language. Mal Swanson was so frustrating, and especially in a year where she had the type of production that she had for the U.S. women's national team, you can feel the layers of frustration in where she was playing with certain type of players and then coming back to club and then almost kind of taking a little bit of a step back, a regression role a little bit, having to play deeper at times. It's deeply frustrating. And I think if you're the franchise and you're looking at the sporting business side of things and you're looking at your vision, you're in year 2 of Mel Swanson. Your face of the franchise player. What are you going to do with the time that you have left? And they're not showing a lot of promise in another offseason in where they have a Mel Swanson.
It's almost as if they got complacent. Okay, she's here for 5 years. We can take a deep breath. We don't have to run with this so quickly. No, you got to set her up for success. You got to move. Pressure's on, Chicago. Pressure's on. We'll talk about it as we get closer to the start of the season, where we rank the Stars in the preseason rankings, how they could potentially finish in 2025, and any other signings that they make in the next couple of weeks. Not much longer. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Attacking Third. In the NWSL, Houston Dash has named Fabrice Gautrat as their newest head coach. It's his first head coaching stint, but he's been in and around the league for several years, most recently with North Carolina under Sean Nahas as a head coach. Sandra and I told you at the top of the show, we've been hanging out this week. We spoke to head coach Gautrat yesterday about his new role at Houston, what he plans to bring to the team. Take a listen.
There hasn't necessarily been that key opportunity to develop that Houston Dash playing identity. What's that going to look like with you?
Yeah, great question, Sandra. I mentioned and I alluded to earlier, you need to have a clear identity in each moment of the game. And so if you want to just start within possession, I'm not a firm believer of just having the ball. I'm a firm believer in possessing to progress. And so for me, you've got some great players on our current team right now that can dribble penetrate really well. So how do you create moments where those players can kind of do their thing, whether it's them positionally, whether it's us getting the ball to them. But for me, that's going to be a big thing. How do you potentially attract opponents out of key spaces to kind of exploit that? So that'd be the first piece. The second piece is you have to be very adaptable, and you have to, if you always do the same thing all the time, you become very predictable, and opponents can kind of create game plans based off that predictability. So I think the next piece is you have to be a bit unpredictable with, what that looks like either offensively or defensively as well. And so, if you look at, especially when you have the ball, you have to constantly be thinking what can happen if we lose it. And so setting up the team in the right way to make sure we're effective in those moments in case we do lose it, to make sure we're minimizing the opponents in those moments.
Ooh, wow. Guys, some confidence, some definition of what Houston's gonna look like, the goals for Houston. The bar is so low. I'm inspired on the minimal information we just got about Houston being unpredictable. So you guys are getting my unfiltered thoughts. This is the first time I'm seeing clips from this. I was not a part of these interviews, which I'm kind of glad. But the bar's so low, I'm hyped. Cool. We're going to see Houston be unpredictable. Hell yes. We have needed this from Houston for so long. And coming from a coach that was under Sean Nahas, who knows how to train hard, who knows how to create a defined style of play for a team, I think this is the reset that Houston needs. I have a lot more confidence now knowing that, hey, this is a coach that's familiar with the league. This is a coach that's getting the players that he wants to make this style of play. If I'm one of those players on the team looking at this interview or just looking at the press he's doing, I'm excited by it and I have a little bit more confidence. So shout out to Fabrice. Let's see what you got.
You know what? I love that you said they'll be unpredictable, but now it's like intentionally unpredictable rather than just being the grand wild card that they've been in every aspect, front office, on field, off field, full on chaos. Yeah, it's refreshing to hear that there's some direction. And like, hey, let's throw the confetti at that. I know. Like I'm on the same bus as Darian where I'm like, yo, it's a low bar, but like let's celebrate that because you know what? Like those players have deserved that at the bare minimum. So I'm excited to see if Fabrice will end up being a breath of fresh air at Houston because it seems like he should be.
I think to Darian's point, the bar is so low, you're like, okay, finally. But it says a lot about Houston, and I'm so excited for people to get a little bit more of the interview. I know it'll be up eventually in full for folks to take a look at it. But in that sense, it's not surprising that you guys get this sneak peek, and Darian's reaction is like it's refreshing because it's like there hasn't been that. I mean, and this is a club that we've talked about has had rotating coaches for a while, rotating executives as well. We could put that in there. And even like with the announcement of Fred Alonso last year, I don't think there was that type of reaction after kind of hearing him do his initial media. There was not the, okay, I hear what you're saying. Now let's see it. There wasn't that, like there kind of is right here with this head coaching hire. And maybe that's a part of it. We get into that a little bit too in the interview, right, Lisa? We kind of just say like, is it more about getting into this franchise that has just sort of been through it? Is it more just about like stabilizing an environment, or is it like going all out and balls out and competing and let's go get those ships? And it's all of those things combined. But I think it's refreshing to have someone speak about this kind of experiment that's been going on in Houston in a way where it feels like, or at least sounds like, there's finally going to be direction.
I was actually pretty impressed with his confidence. As an assistant coach, you don't get to hear a lot from coaches in the league, and he knows it very, very well from his time spent as an assistant in and around the landscape, and understanding that, yes, NWSL can be a transitional league and you have to have a sense of athleticism as a player in order to compete, but he wants to control that with Houston, almost harness the athleticism and the transition that this league can have, doing a really good job on both sides of the ball, making sure that rest defense, when you are in possession of it, is ready to go. So if you lose it, you're in positions to win it back, to block holes, and to move again in transition. There was a press conference that happened before our interview with Gautrat, in which the new GM, Angela Hucles-Mangiano, talked a lot about bringing in a coach like Gautrat, who knows the league and who wants to win, who also has clear ideas of how to play and also how to get there, right? Because so many coaches know how they want to play, but they have a hard time going from point A to point B to ultimately execute how they want to play. And for Gautrat, he's starting with training. He's like, I want there to be an incredibly high level at training and almost this sense that no one is safe. You have to be competing every day, do better than you were the day before, and looking to build upon that. And if he's going to bring that day one to this group, frankly, it's already better than what we saw last year from Houston.
I have a lot of faith with a formerly assistant coach in the NWSL jumping to a head coach, because in my experience, especially professionally, the assistant coach does most of the grunt work with designing the drills, putting the head coach's vision into what a training session looks like. And they're the ones typically going around monitoring each group, each passing pattern, each setup, and helping players get up to tempo, get up to that level of intensity Lisa was talking about, and really setting the standard. So now getting to hire your own staff, stepping back as a head coach, and actually getting to implement the plan when you just come from the experience of knowing exactly what that takes as an assistant coach, I think should give the players a lot of confidence. Not only that, I also love that he's taking the players that he has and is going to be using them. I think looking at this team, looking at the DNA of this team, they have a great team. It's not like they have players that couldn't play up to the standard of being a competitive team in the NWSL. They've had that. They just have not had a coach that I think can actually, an organization, frankly, that can lead to the team that can compete for playoffs. And I feel confident in this year, looking at the DNA, the personnel of this team, that they can actually be a team that's has the proper fundamentals to be a really competitive team in the NWSL.
This full interview is not yet up on YouTube, but it will be. Go take a listen to it because it's really interesting. We also, Sandra, asked Fabrice Gautrat about bringing in players like Delaney Sheehan and Yasmin Ryan because they were brought in prior to him even joining the club. He's excited about it. It says a lot about the ambition of the club and the direction they want to go, the caliber of players that Houston can bring in, even without a head coach, says a lot about what they want to do moving forward. Full interview with newest Houston Dash head coach Fabrice Gautrat up on YouTube soon. Mark will drop the link for you. We're going to hope Mark is back. We're going to see how this rocks right now. We're going to take a quick break, maybe, and talk Barclays Women's Super League. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. Barclays, it returns, the Women's Super League, and it's back with a vengeance. Match week 11 after a month-long drought. They played their final matches of 2024, December 14th and 15th. It is now a month later. It all starts Friday, January 17th, when Liverpool take on Brighton, 2 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The match of the weekend, though, is the Manchester Derby. City playing host United Sunday, January 19th at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. Christine Cupo, baby, we are back with the Super League.
We are so back. Yeah, I'm excited. It's kind of wild because just the wake of injuries that we've had and turnover already at this point in the season, and now, boom, we are full Manchester Derby. City have historically won this one. They have pulled up some draws occasionally for United, but we'll see how this goes down. I love me a derby. Like I don't even like I have no skin in the game, and somehow I always end up emotionally invested in somebody's better. I don't know.
This will be the 16th time that City and United have faced off since 2019. City lead the way in that they've scored 27 goals in this series.
Were they all bunnies?
Yeah, honestly, probably. That is double the goals that Manchester United had last season. Sandra, when you think about City, United, the fact that both of these clubs are coming off of a month-long break, what are you watching for in this derby?
I'm watching for Bunny Shaw to go off. Like, let's go. Let's just keep it going. Let's just pick up like right where we left off, the magic of Bunny. But look, it's a rivalry game, right? And not only is it a rivalry game, it's once it sort of just kind of start things back into the action. So maybe with that, there might be a little bit of rust. There might be that kind of feeling each other out, getting back into the grind of things. And then when you add that layer of rivalry, I think perhaps it could be a little narrow, but I think there'll be enough magic there for Bunny to kind of get the breakthrough for sure.
She's got 9 goals. How many is she getting in this game, Darian? Bunny Shaw.
Let's go a brace. I'm going to go 2. I mean, homegirl's been in the gym. She's looking good. She's posting quotes. I think she's in a good mind space. I mean, she's probably missing scoring goals. I've never seen somebody shoot the ball harder than Bunny Shaw. Like, I think she's probably missing that. So I think she's going to come out with a bang in this match.
Plus, if she's, hitting the gym, she's even more powerful than she was a month ago.
It.
Kind of
at home at the Etihad, hat trick. Let's go, Bunny.
Patty, I absolutely love it. To give you guys a little catch up on where things stand in the Women's Super League, Chelsea, they're at the top of the table. I mean, what else is new? Through 10 matches, they have 28 points, and that's a 6-point lead over Manchester City, who sit in second. But between Manchester City, Arsenal, and Manchester United, that's the top 4 right there. There's only 1 point separating City, Arsenal, and United. Bunny Shaw, she leads the Super League with 9 goals. Alessia Russo of Arsenal and Gu Wrighton of Chelsea, they have 6 goals each. So they're tied for second. And Lauren Hemp out of Manchester City, she leads the way in the assist category with 6. So as we enter big picture, Darian, as we enter the second half of the Barclays Women's Super League season, who are you keeping an eye out for, right? Of course, Chelsea, City, Arsenal, United at the top of the table, but where are your eyes falling mostly?
To Brighton. Brighton's actually been the surprise of this season so far for me. I think this is a team we didn't give a lot of attention to because there were so many moves elsewhere at the start of the Super League season. But this is a team that's playing really well. I think they have players that also moved to the team underrated. I know we highlighted a little bit, but I just love the way they're playing. I know they dropped points before the break against Tottenham, but this is a team that's been competing against the top level teams. And I think that they can play spoiler. And when you have a break like this, they also haven't had a lot of injuries, knock on wood. But this is a team that's been very consistent. And I think if they can keep building on that, I'm really excited to see how they play in the rest of the season. I mean, I know they play Liverpool tomorrow. That's a good game for them to get back into the swing of things. It's competitive, but I do still think they're better on the pitch. But that's probably been my surprise, very happy surprise. And team I'm probably betting the most on going into the second half of this season to maybe get into that top 4, possibly top 3.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Brighton's just on the outside of that top 4. They sit in 5th place, just 4 points behind United on 21 points, Brighton on 17. Okay, Sandra, I have to do this because it's just the running A3 joke. How is your Crystal Palace doing? Give us an update.
Keeping me warm and cozy, my beloved Palace. Hey, anything can happen in the second half. You never know. They're 1 point shy of not being your relegation team. So we'll see what happens.
They could get a second win, maybe a draw.
You already know. You already know. That's what I'm going to be keeping an eye out for in the second half. Let's get another one of those draws. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, it all starts January 17th. We've got Liverpool taking on Brighton. Match of the weekend. It's the Manchester Derby, though. City playing host to United Sunday at 1:45 p.m. Eastern time. Guys, that does it for us. What a show. It's been fun to hang with you all. Thanks for joining us. If you're with us on YouTube, watching on the Galazzo Network, or listening as a podcast, we so appreciate you guys. Let us know across socials, podcast reviews, all of it. Let us know if you enjoyed hanging with us too. For Christine, Sandra, Darian, Mark, we got Des, producer Des in the house too. I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.